Welcome back to Josh and Kristie Stealing the Internet. I'm Kristie.
And I'm Josh. We've got some more great Reddit stories for you today, so let's jump into the first one.
Am I the asshole for not leaving work to help my wife when she ran out of gas?
Well, I don't know. I assume that somebody who's old enough to be married is old enough to figure out gas on their own. But also, if your spouse needs help, you should probably leave and help them.
My wife, 38 female, and I, 41 male, have been married for 11 years and have 2 kids, 9 and 7. I work full-time and she works part-time while also doing online classes to finish her degree. She dropped out of college after 2 years and wants to finish. She has ADHD and anxiety, and if I'm being honest, sometimes it feels like our entire lives revolve around her symptoms. Last Friday, my wife didn't have to work and decided to go visit her sister, who lives in a small town about 45 minutes away. She didn't tell me she was going, so I was very surprised when she called me shortly after noon. She was obviously upset when I answered, and between sobs, I was able to make out that there was an issue with the car. Eventually, she calmed down and told me that she ran out of gas in the middle of nowhere and didn't know what to do.
Sorry, how far away was this other town?
45 minutes.
I mean, if you don't have AAA or something in your area, it's very normal to have to call a family member and ask them to bring you a tank of gas when you break down in the middle of the country.
Because she hadn't told me she was visiting her sister, I was very confused and had a lot of questions, which only made her more upset. I was getting frustrated too, so I finally just asked her what she wanted me to do. She told me she needed me to come help her. I told her I was at work and had meetings in the afternoon that I couldn't skip. I suggested she call her sister, but she went to work after my wife visited, and my wife didn't want to bother her. I suggested she call AAA to come help, but she said she didn't know how to do that.
So you guys do have AAA?
Yes, but she doesn't know how to call them.
Not only is there AAA in your area, it's your members. It's on the back of your card.
It's hard. I suggested she call an Uber, but she was in the middle of nowhere and it didn't show any cars available. I suggested she call a friend or someone else that might be able to help her, and she yelled at me to just fucking come help her.
Sorry, why can't OP just call AAA?
That is a good question. I didn't even think of that, but because I feel like a 38-year-old woman should be able to call AAA on her own.
Oh, she absolutely should. But if it's that big of an issue for her, OP also has the ability to say, hey, my wife is stranded. Here's her location. Can you send somebody with a tank of gas?
I tried to remain calm and reiterated that I'm sorry she's in this position, but at this moment I am unable to help her. I told her I had offered numerous suggestions that she could try to help herself, but I can't leave work. She then hung up on me. My first meeting of the afternoon was starting in 5 minutes, so I tried calling her back and she didn't answer. I kept trying to text her during the meeting too, but she never responded. I tried calling again between my meetings and still no answer, which I admit pissed me off because even if I was trying to come help her at that point, I couldn't reach her.
Sorry, does OP want her to be self-sufficient or not because now he wants her to check in?
Yes, but I do feel like if your wife was in this situation and so upset, even if you couldn't leave work to go help her, you would want like status updates on how she's doing. Is everything going okay? Are you safe? You know?
Oh, absolutely. I would want some status updates.
But no, she just got so angry. She just hung up and is not talking to him.
Okay, that's fair. I would still be sending text messages too to see if you're okay.
She is the one who picks up our kids from school, so I was kind of freaking out at this point because I was completely in the dark about whether I would need to go get them or if my wife was okay. So I called the school and asked them to please let me know if my wife comes to get the kids because I can't reach her. I didn't include any details about why. The school called me back at pickup time and told me that my wife was there for pickup.
Well, that's good. She did figure things out. Maybe a quick text would have been justified before you start the silent treatment.
When I got home at the end of the day, my wife refused to talk to me. She gave me the cold shoulder the entire weekend. I apologized for not being able to help multiple times. Finally, this morning she spoke to me, but all she said was, I can't count on you anymore. Did I really mess up that bad? Am I the jerk for this?
I don't think you're the jerk for this, but there's something about OP's writing style that makes me think that he's being very condescending towards his wife.
Do you think she deserves a little bit of condescension because she ran out of gas and was sobbing and didn't know what to do and couldn't handle it? Like, she's a whole ass 38-year-old adult.
I mean, yeah, but did he need to bring up irrelevant details like she has ADHD and our whole life revolves around that?
I think that might be more like he said she also has anxiety, and I get calling people causes me anxiety. I don't know. I don't want to call AAA. You call them for me. But at the same time, I'm like, it needs to be done. I will call AAA.
That's true. She does seem to have extreme anxiety. So maybe it was a good idea to bring that up in the post. I mean, I don't think you're being the jerk here. You had meetings. You need that paycheck. And she has a working phone, obviously. So she can definitely call AAA. I just think you could stand to be a little nicer to your wife while you're writing out the sentences. It is still your spouse.
I mean, yeah, she's being kind of ridiculous, but if you love her, you should maybe be a little nicer.
But I fully get not being able to leave work and help for what is a minor inconvenience these days.
Top comment, NTA. Your wife just proved that she was in fact capable of dealing with the situation herself. I have zero patience for adults who can't manage situations like this. A, it was of her own making, and B, there were so many options for solving it. And dropping everything to go save her, that just enables her dysfunction further. It teaches her that she doesn't need to be responsible for herself.
There is a certain logic behind expecting a 38-year-old person to know that you need to fill up on gas before you drive through country roads for 45 minutes.
Yeah, 45 minutes each way. You gotta check your gas before you leave.
I mean, most cars these days actively yell at you if you're low on gas.
Yeah, how did she not notice that? I don't understand how people can run out of gas in this day and age with the new modern cars, because mine yells at me. And it's like, you have 50 miles left. And I'm like, oh, I better get to a gas station ASAP.
Right, unless...
Actually, I mean, I better make Josh go to a gas station for me ASAP.
Right. I think the only times I ever come close to running out of gas is when the thing dings at me while I'm like driving down the highway, and I'm like, well, I'll stop at the next stop because I'd have to fight my way over to the right lane to get off at this exit. And then a sign appears after that and like, next exit 50 miles or something.
Oh no,
Yeah.
That's too far.
That's really far. I gotta figure something out or just pray. But 99.9% of the time, it's really difficult to run out of gas, especially in an area that you're familiar with.
Another comment. If your wife can't order AAA by herself, she probably shouldn't be allowed to drive or take care of children. What does she do when she has to take her kids to the doctor and has to fill out their names on a form? Good Lord, man.
I mean, these days, all the forms are online anyways, so you don't actually have to talk to the receptionist hardly.
Someone replied, this, what happens if the kid gets hurt or she is in an accident with a real emergency? Sounds like they need to make some emergency planning if she can't even figure out how to call AAA. I could do this as a teenager. Sad a grown woman can't figure it out. Someone else makes a good point. She said she can't count on OP anymore. OP could never count on her. Jesus Christ, what a child. But yeah, I don't know if I would trust my partner if they couldn't handle a situation like this. Because what happens if there is a real emergency?
Yeah, I mean, it is tough. You need to be able to rely on your partner when things come up. And calling you and asking you to drop everything and drive to the location of wherever the emergency is happening isn't always the best solution, especially in this case where she was not in any imminent danger and you did have important meetings that you couldn't skip.
Someone points out that if they're AAA members, they have an app where you don't even have to call someone. You just go through the app. So she didn't even have to go through the anxiety of talking to someone about it.
Somebody is going to turn up with that gas tank, though.
Oh, yeah. Terrifying. Stranger danger. Even though they're bringing you the gas you need.
Honestly, in my experience, the guys who do like the emergency rescue tow truck stuff, they're some of the nicest, most understanding people.
Yeah, because we've had to use them a few times. Not for running out of gas, but like, car breaking down and stuff.
Right. They're generally very chipper because they know you're having one of the worst days of your year right now. So, yeah, I mean, I gotta say, you're not the jerk, OP. Your wife should be able to handle this fairly basic function of adulting.
So Reddit firmly thinks not the asshole and that his wife needs to become a little bit more responsible.
Did they say it that politely?
Oh, no, not that politely at all. It is Reddit, of course.
Am I the asshole for showering around midnight when I know it might bother the neighbor who wakes up at 5 a.m.?
Ooh, This is tough. I'm assuming an apartment where the walls are very, very thin, but I feel like showering is not that disruptive of a noise. I feel like someone should be able to sleep through that. You're just living your life. I don't think the asshole. Maybe I think that because I also frequently like to shower at midnight.
Yeah, I'm also the type to want to take my showers before bed. We purchased a home and moved in recently. Housing opportunities are tight in our area, so even though we were warned that the walls are very thin and the neighbors hear a lot of noise from the apartment, especially from the bathroom, we still chose this property because everything else is picture perfect for us. We are generally a very quiet couple without kids or animals. Our hobbies, beadwork, video game on headphones without streaming, reading, Netflix, are generally quiet, and we only invite friends over every 2 to 4 weeks. And we haven't invited anyone over as we were still decorating and everything. We are the owners of the apartment. The neighbors are a couple and a small kid. They rent the apartment next to us, and before we purchased the home, they warned us that they generally hear a lot of noise coming from our bathroom, and that it's their bedroom on the other side. But as I mentioned, our options were limited, and given that we are not noisy at all, we thought we can take this situation. We sometimes hear their toddler, but that's completely okay. It doesn't bother us at all. The problem is, we bother them as our routine is very different. They wake up at 5 a.m. and generally quiet down at 8 p.m. when the kid goes to sleep. On the other hand, because I work from home until 7 p.m., I generally start my evening around 8 p.m. and only end up showering around midnight, which bothers them. The whole building is quiet, so they tend to hear how I put my stuff down, how the water runs, how I sometimes drop a few things, and mentioned it very nicely a few times. But I can see that they are pretty annoyed.
I don't like these neighbors. I feel like showering is just a normal part of living. Like if you're watching a loud movie in the middle of the night, yeah, sure. That's not okay. But showering is just like, that's pretty quiet, something you have to do. I feel like, this is pretty normal.
It's not even like OP is singing loudly.
Yeah, because I sing in the shower. Man, would that annoy them. Although I do have to say, if I had neighbors and it was midnight and I knew that they were sleeping, I would try and not sing.
Right. I don't think you really sang much in the shower when we were in an apartment.
Oh, no, I don't want the neighbors hearing me.
No, their bathroom was right up against our bathroom, which is another thing. How strangely laid out is this apartment that the bathroom butts up against their bedroom?
Yeah, because normally they're like mirror images. So your bathroom touches their bathroom, your kitchen touches their kitchen.
Right, you want to do it that way so that they can share a drain pipe.
Yeah, this is a weird layout.
I mean, some layouts are just awful, right? And apparently this apartment complex was not built with efficiency in mind. Now I'm torn between switching up my whole nighttime routine to shower first, because they ask nicely and they wake up around 5 a.m., which doesn't sit right with me. I like to go to bed freshly showered. But it must be annoying to get woken up at midnight. On the other hand, they only rent while we own the home, and I think we are generally very good and quiet neighbors apart from the fact that I shower late. They invited us over to listen to the volume, and to be honest, it's not that loud. Sure, you can hear something, and it must feel louder in the silence of the night, but it's not incredibly loud. Am I the asshole for showering at night?
I think not the asshole. They need to get like a white noise machine to block out the noises of living in an apartment. When you live in an apartment, you got to expect that you're going to hear the neighbors somewhat. As long as they're not playing loud music in the middle of the night and they're being, generally pretty quiet and just living their life quietly, I feel like that's all you can ask. Also, if I was OP, I'd be like, dude, can you try and be quieter at 5 a.m.? I'm still sleeping. How rude are you to you and your toddler waking up and your toddler's so loud in the morning and I'm sleeping?
I mean, these apartments are laid out awfully strangely, so OP's bedroom might not butt up against their wall.
I don't care. I would make a point if they're complaining about me just living my life on what I think is a fairly normal schedule. I'd complain about them living their life and being loud while I'm still sleeping in the morning.
That's true. I mean, you'd think that they could just sleep with a fan on or something, right?
I mean, we sleep with a fan on all the time because I just can't stand the sound of my own breathing. I need white noise.
And they could stand to have some white noise if a shower is bothering them. If a shower is bothering them, they can talk to the owner of the apartment building and say, can we get some insulation in that wall or something? Although I will bring up, and Reddit very firmly agrees on this point, OP is kind of an asshole for bringing up that comment about how they're an owner and the neighbors only rent.
Yeah, that one, I wanted to say something when you read that, but you kept going, and I was like, that's a weird comment. That's weird. Is that weird?
That's weird. You're not more entitled to your living space because you own the apartment.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that comment was kind of condescending and assholey.
Which is why Reddit's verdict is OP is an asshole.
Oh, okay. I do get that they're an asshole for being like, well, I own my apartment and they don't. But what about the shower issue? Are they an asshole for showering at midnight?
Reddit says no, not an asshole for that. But most of the comments only focus on that one sentence of the whole post. Top comment, you're the asshole for caring that they rent versus owning. Would you behave differently if they own their home? If you would, you're the asshole. Which is an interesting question. If they owned that apartment, would OP be more merciful about their showering routine? Although,
it sounds like, yeah, because they brought it up.
But how do you shower more quietly?
I don't know. If they can hear OP picking up things and setting them down in the bathroom, I shudder to think about what else they can hear coming from that bathroom. What about after taco night?
Oh, no. That's not the direction I was going to go. Yeah, there's horrible things happening in that bathroom. And it sounds like they have their bed pressed right up against that wall. They could move their bed to the other side of the room, or they could just put their kid in there. I don't know. Toddlers sleep through anything.
Although, would it be weird to have the toddler in the master bedroom with the ensuite bathroom and then them in the smaller bedroom?
I don't know. Some apartments don't even have like a master bedroom. They just got 2 equal bedrooms. So it depends on the layout, I guess.
Yeah, I think it does. But I feel like there are better options than bugging OP and being like, stop showering at midnight.
This is such a little thing to bother your neighbor about, isn't it? You have a neighbor that's honestly quite pleasant to live next to, other than the fact that they bathe.
At least you know they're clean.
Right. They don't have a drum set. There's so many other things they could do in their apartment, and you would not be justified in complaining.
Our downstairs neighbor listened to music so loud, but then I didn't feel like we could complain because our cats were tearing around the apartment. And like, how do such small cats make so much noise? They sounded like a herd of elephants galloping around.
Our apartments did have a bit of echoing, but no one ever complained because I don't think anyone was like actively trying to be an asshole, right? Like, yeah, we had some kids in the apartment next door. It's whatever. I get it. We're all just trying to live here. I think your neighbors are kind of assholes for bringing up the fact that you shower.
That's just part of apartment living. If they don't like it, they need to find not an apartment to rent.
Another comment. The root of the problem isn't your hygiene schedule. It's that the walls are thin in a community living situation. They have had issues with this since before you moved in. Otherwise, they wouldn't have known to bring it up. And if you moved out tomorrow, would have the same issues with the next residents. They can look into earplugs, white noise machine, adding soundproofing, dampening to the walls, moving the bed away from that wall, and they should if it's causing them a huge issue. But whether they'd like to try to address it or live with it is up to them. If you were throwing loud parties at midnight regularly, that'd be different. But using your bathroom is a completely reasonable and predictable use of your home. Asking you not to isn't a viable solution.
I agree with that 100%. They put that a little bit more eloquently than I did, though.
Yeah, that was well typed out, and I do agree with that. But in less eloquent terms. My house, my rule.
It is a lot easier to be eloquent when you are typing something out and have time than when you're like on the spot spewing stuff out of your mouth.
Kristie apartment. Kristie shower now.
Shower now! You don't like it too bad.
Some people do say not the asshole, though, and it's all the people who, they aren't bringing up that line. Not the asshole, you are allowed to use your bathroom whenever you want in a home you own. Showering is a basic necessity, not a late-night rave. If the building is so poorly insulated that running water wakes people up, that's a structural issue, not a you issue. They are renters and knew the building's flaws, too. You shouldn't have to feel like a prisoner in your own home or go to bed feeling dirty because of their 5 a.m. schedule. Which is pretty much my opinion here, too. They should not be allowed to dictate how you live in your own space to this extreme.
Hey, if you're enjoying this episode so far, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, it really helps us out, and it lets us know we should keep making fun content like this for you.
Am I the asshole for refusing to give a micro-influencer free coffee upgrades after she tried to get me fired?
I mean, I want to know how many followers OP defines as micro-influencer because it varies from person to person. But if someone tries to get you fired, they should be happy that you didn't physically throw them out the door.
I, 22 female, work as a barista at a small local coffee shop. We have this regular, Megan, late 20s, who has like 15,000 Instagram followers. She comes in almost every day, orders the super complicated latte, then asks for extra syrup, oat milk, and whipped cream for free because she promotes the shop on her stories.
Is this like a brand deal she has established with the owner of the coffee shop?
The boss has no formal deal with her, so technically it's against policy.
Then whatever. Every day she wants this? It's not even just a one-off thing.
No, every day.
That's nuts.
I've let it slide a few times when it was slow, but last Saturday we were slammed. Line out the door, 2 call-outs, I was solo on the bar. Megan orders, I ring her up normally, $6.75, and she goes, just add the oat milk and vanilla for free like usual. I told her I couldn't today because my manager was watching the cameras. True, and I'd already been warned about giving freebies. She got really snotty and said, fine, I'll just take my business elsewhere. Then pulled out her phone and took a photo of me mid-reach for a cup. Before I could even say anything, she posted on her story, shop name has the worst service. Barista named, my name, was so rude for no reason. Don't go here.
That seems awfully petty over something that she orders every day. Am I just the weird person that I want to keep my barista happy and I want to make sure I'm still allowed to go and buy coffee from that shop if I need it every single day? I'm not doing you a favor by coming in and buying, what was it, a $6 cup of coffee?
$6.75.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that the owner will not go broke if you don't spend that every day.
Within a few hours, her followers left 3 one-star Yelp reviews, specifically naming me, and 2 people came into the shop demanding discounts because, according to them, they saw what I did.
Wow, that is honestly more people out of that 15,000 than I thought were going to care.
Me too! I was really surprised that like 3 people went and left Yelp reviews and 2 people came in. That seems like a lot.
Motivating people to actually get off their butts and go to a coffee shop to harass the staff. She's got more influence than I thought she would over these people.
Yeah, I do want to say that's a lot more people than I thought for only having 15,000 followers.
Right.
If a real influencer did that, I would expect a lot more backlash because I have seen the internet go crazy over that.
On the other hand, you would hope that as an adult, this person would not try to weaponize her fan base.
My boss reviewed the security footage, laughed, and told me I did nothing wrong. But now a couple of my coworkers say I should have just given her the $1.50 upgrade to avoid the drama and the bad press. The owner is staying out of it, but Megan keeps commenting on her Instagram posts with, remember when your staff harassed me?
Why is the owner staying out of it? You're not allowed to stay out of it. You're the owner.
That's what I thought too. I was like, this is the one that this is affecting the most, right? These bad Yelp reviews, the bad press.
Yeah.
He's the one who should be most concerned about it.
Right. They're the one that needs to be responding to this situation. You could have blocked the influencer on social media. You could have banned the influencer for life. You could have reported the influencer for making fake reviews. There's steps you can take. They aren't all going to work, but you got to at least try them.
I feel like I was just doing my job and enforcing a policy she knew about. But the shop lost a few regulars who saw her story, so maybe I should have just let it go. Am I the asshole?
I mean, this feels like the petty micro-influencer bullshit that's going to blow over in 2 months. And maybe that's your boss's stance on it, too. Nobody has the energy. Hopefully, nobody has the energy to continue to bother a coffee shop longer than that over something like this. Still, you could have replied to those Yelp reviews and been like, hey, we do not give out freebies even if an influencer asks. You could have thrown her in some bad light. The boss. I'm talking to the boss with that one.
I do think the real problem is this barista has given her freebies in the past. Why would you do that? It's against policy. Just shut that down immediately and be like, no. Or you'll have to talk to the owner about that if you want that.
That is true. I still don't think OP's the asshole. I think that, the influencer is obviously the asshole, and you slipped her some freebies, whatever. But it did seem like it bit you in the butt, your own allowing her to act like this. I also don't really agree with OP's logic of it was slow, so I let her get away with it, but I can't let her get away with it when it's fast. I had the opposite thought process when I was a barista. It's slow, which means I can sit here and argue with you all damn day. It's fast. I don't want to fix that order. Sure, dump the oat milk in. Let's keep moving. We got 30 people in line.
Yeah, that is also a good point. Top comment, NTA. Comment back saying, remember when you were too cheap to spend $1.50 to pay for your order? I would expect an influencer to be classier. Someone replied, I'd use wannabe influencer.
Another question I have for OP is, this person is one of your regulars. And when I was in, working coffee, when my regular walked through the door, I would get their order started. Why isn't OP just typing in the numbers with the extras and being like, it's going to be $7.80 or whatever it is with the oat milk and whatever? OP could have just shut this whole thing down and been like, well, I know your order. I know it by heart because you're here every day and you make a problem every day. So I typed it in. $8. Because with good regulars, they appreciate it when you have their order all typed in when they get to the register.
There was a while where I got a coffee milkshake every morning, and it was delicious, but it was making me fat, so I did eventually have to stop. But I had a coffee milkshake like almost every morning on the way to work for like years. And I was so excited when the baristas saw me pull into the parking lot and started making my coffee milkshake, because it took a while to make. You got to like put in ice cream and the coffee stuff and ice and then blend it all up. And then, it took a little minute. So I was so excited when they saw me pull in and already had it. They had it ready when I walked in the door. It was the best.
Right. Most regulars appreciate the fact that you recognize them. You maybe greet them by name and say, hey, your order's up. Here's the total, as always. Right? That's good customer service. She's not a good customer, but there's a lot of ways you could have shut this down up to the point where this exploded. I still don't think you're the asshole. I just feel like you weren't taking the right steps.
Another comment, NTA. 15,000 followers? That's nothing. She's just an entitled bee who wants free things.
Yeah, I mean, it's not nothing. 15,000 followers is the level where if you had properly reached out to the owner and negotiated a brand deal, I feel like your payment for the brand deal would be free oat milk in your coffee. That's like the level of freebie she deserves at that level.
Right? Free upgrades on the coffee that you're already paying for.
Exactly. Free upgrades. That's the level that you get with 15,000 followers.
But the thing is, you need to reach out to the owner or the manager and set that deal up. You can't just expect it.
No, you can't just expect it. This was you just bothering the baristas and them not having the energy to deal with your antics. Influencers that I've worked with that are at the micro level like that, yeah, they gave us a post and in exchange I sent them like a free t-shirt. Right? They're like, hey, I'm like, hey, we don't really do brand deals, but I can definitely shoot you some swag. And they would usually just make the post on their own when they received whatever I sent them. Like I sent them 3 free bottles of pop. And they're like, wow, I can't believe Pop Company sent me these bottles. I'm so excited.
Yeah, you did social media management for companies for a lot of years. So I feel like you have a lot of experience in this area.
Yeah, and you just kind of learn how to gracefully let them down without actually building any bad blood. And honestly, a lot of times when they're reaching out, all they want is like the free t-shirt or oat milk.
But I feel like OP is taking this pretty hard. Someone commented, your boss needs to get a backbone and post the security footage on the company's page to defend his employee and his business, NTA. And OP replied, honestly, I feel betrayed by my boss. I mean, it is not cool that this influencer has named this barista by name on her page, and now she's getting bad reviews in the Yelp review using her name.
Oh, yeah. Boss is absolutely an asshole for not defending his employees on social media when they're being called out like this. You can't just let somebody attack your business and your employees by name like this. That's not acceptable.
But I do feel like as an employee, I'm not sure I'm that upset about this as long as my boss knows the whole story. Like, sure, people say, hey, Kristie at such and such a place. I'm like, that could be anyone. Just give me a different name tag. I'm going to wear my coworker's name tag this week.
I mean, I've actually had other baristas do that. And sometimes it's just, I forgot my apron. So I grabbed, Jared's, and it says Jared on the apron. And I'm like, I don't want to change it and mess up his name tag.
Policy was you needed a name tag, and I forgot mine, so I'm just going to grab this one that's sitting on the counter.
Yeah, I'll answer to Jared for the day. I don't care.
Someone else says, ignore this idiot and anyone who is influenced by them. I'd refuse to serve her if she ever comes in again. She's harassing you. And OP replied, thanks. I'm considering resigning and focusing on my other job at the moment. So she's taking this way harder than I would.
OP is taking this so hard. Yeah, when I had a bad customer, I eventually just moved on, like within the next few minutes. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of mad for a bit, but there's other coffee to sell. But OP has another job. I don't know, maybe 2 people won't come in and be mean to her at that other job. Sorry, I feel like I said that in a very belittling manner. I meant that seriously. Maybe the other job, people won't come in and be jerks.
Yeah, it did sound a little belittling. Oh, 2 people came in and were mean to you. Boo-hoo.
That's why I had to roll that back.
Okay, one more final comment. She name dropped you. Name drop her so we can leave a bad review on her Instagram.
That is a slippery slope, and I don't know. She seems like the type of person that thrives on the drama, and she might be able to turn it into more followers.
But Reddit says not the asshole, and influencers demanding freebies is annoying and entitled.
It certainly is. On a side note, how much free oat milk do you think that we could get right now?
I don't know, 20,000 on YouTube and 60,000 on TikTok?
I mean, with those numbers, we could probably just ask for like a cup of oat milk on the side, right?
The thing is, I would never think to even ask for freebies.
No.
Maybe it's because we don't run like a lifestyle page or something like that, so I feel like we're not promoting anything except Reddit.
Yeah, because I don't think that our followers want us just posting like, got a coffee today.
No, they don't care about us. They just want the Reddit stories.
Am I the asshole, or is it normal for older kids in youth theater to tell younger kids what to do?
Well, I was not in youth theater, but I don't know. But I do feel like the older kids have been around longer and probably like know what's going on. So maybe giving directions to the younger kids is warranted.
I have 2 kids, 8 and 10, in a youth theater group that goes up to age 21. My 8-year-old has had issues with a 19-year-old student she says is bossy. It started during a dance rehearsal when my daughter wanted to stand next to her friend, and the 19-year-old told her to step away a bit. My 10-year-old doesn't mind her, but has also noticed she sometimes tells younger kids what to do.
I feel like this would be pretty normal. Like if you're an older kid who's been doing theater for 10 years and you see the little kids and they're like not paying attention and they're talking to their friends instead of rehearsing, you're like, hey, come on, let's go. Get over here where you're supposed to be. Get on your mark.
I don't know if I would call a 19-year-old an older kid.
Yeah, I mean, they are an adult, so yeah.
After one dress rehearsal, my 10-year-old came home with a different hairstyle. She said the 19-year-old noticed her hair tie was loose and offered to fix it, but did a different style. At another rehearsal, the 19-year-old told my 8-year-old they needed to wear character shoes for a number. When my daughter questioned it, she said, "Look at everyone else's shoes." My daughter felt mocked. On show day, my daughter got upset again after being told to stand more to the left while waiting behind the curtain. That's when I contacted the director and said my daughter felt she was being made fun of. The next day, when dropping off the kids before the other show, I asked the director if he had talked to her yet. He said no, and I asked if he can now. The director brought the 19-year-old out to explain, but he was talking to me in a rude tone while asking her to explain. She said moving away from her friend and standing left was to help her be seen on stage. Mentioning the shoes was to help with a quick change, and the "look at everyone else's shoes" comment was meant as a joke, and she's sorry for being sarcastic. The director then said in a rude tone, "Great. Is this resolved?" I said I still didn't think it was right for her to be bossy since she's not the director. He responded, "Okay, let them do them," and walked away. The 19-year-old then left too. I felt the director was dismissive. I'm not sure if this is normal in youth theater, but I don't think it's appropriate for one student to tell another what to do. Was I overreacting?
Yeah, I think you kind of are. Like, the director does not have time to baby your child and tell them what to do all the time. They got a whole cast of people that they're trying to manage. So yeah, they're going to delegate some. And I feel like this 19-year-old is just kind of, unofficially taking over some of the responsibilities to try and take some of the burden off of the director. I feel like this is very normal. Like, she's trying to be a stage manager, get everybody where they're supposed to be, keep things flowing.
I'm not even sure if she's doing this unofficially. She might just be a stage manager. It's like a youth theater program. I think a lot of times the older kids move on to like a more managerial role as well, so they get experience in all the areas.
Yeah, and I gotta say, a youth theater, managing a bunch of kids is gonna take a lot of people working on it. The director doesn't have time to do all of this. They need someone to help them micromanage everyone.
I've never done any, like, theater. Like, the closest I got was, like, my grade school class, going up and singing for the parents on stage at the middle school. But I feel like if your 8-year-old wants to stand next to her friend, tough.
Yeah, she needs to be on her mark. Where this is a production, this isn't socializing hour, and this is a dress rehearsal. You need to be wearing the right shoes.
Sounds like your kids aren't taking it as seriously as everyone else.
I just am wondering if theater is for this family.
And also, hey, your hair tie is coming loose. Let me fix it for you. But she didn't do the hairstyle right. Was she expecting the 19-year-old to know how to do the hairstyle exactly like mom does?
I don't know. How dare you touch her daughter's hair, though?
Top comment. Honestly, it sounds like every single issue here is that your kid didn't want to do what they were told to and complained. The 19-year-old wasn't being unreasonable. All of the things you mentioned are very basic stage directions. Stand where the script tells you to stand. Wear what you're told to wear. You're the asshole.
Yeah, I agree with that. Does this kid even want to be in theater? Because I'm thinking maybe not.
Another comment. Older kid? She can vote. She's an adult helping your kid learn. You're the asshole. I'm sure the 19-year-old does not want to spend her whole time telling your kids to get back in line.
No, she's probably annoyed. She's got her lines down. She's ready to run them, and your kids are being hooligans in the background.
Yeah, because the older people in the program generally have, like, the leading roles, right?
Yeah.
And this is her. She's like, I worked for this. I've been in this theater for so long, and I'm finally in the 19-year-old spot, right?
Yes. And now I get to be in charge and make sure everything's running smoothly, and oh my gosh, your kids are ruining it.
To be fair, I'm sure a lot of the 8 and 10-year-olds are just wandering off their mark. That's probably very normal.
I'm sure it is, yeah. But it's also very normal for older people to be like, hey, pay attention. Come on, get back where you're supposed to be. What were we talking about?
I'm sure none of the other parents are calling her out for it.
Also, I gotta say, the director thought you were ridiculous. That lets you know you're ridiculous.
I'm amazed the director even called the 19-year-old out to explain herself instead of just being like, this is normal. Another comment, surely you aren't considering a 19-year-old an older kid in comparison to your 8-year-old. This is the point of these types of groups. The children are there to have fun and act together, and the young adults are there to build leadership and management skills. You're the asshole. You're the asshole. The sarcasm over the shoes only happened because your kid was trying to be sassy by asking why she needed to obey. The rest is just you being upset that an adult with more experience than your 8-year-old was giving out instructions and trying to help out.
But she's not the director. I want the director directly supervising my child at all times.
This sounds like the most chaotic thing for one person to have to manage, doesn't it?
It does.
The director's probably trying to, direct and tell all of the sub-directors or whatever you call them to do their roles. He doesn't have time to police the 8-year-olds. Youth theater employee here. It's very normal for the older kids to guide the younger ones in this way. It's quite clear to me that the older girl was trying to help her out and not boss her around. In the case of mixed age groups, it's honestly better for everyone in many cases if the older kids guide the younger ones. Telling her to stand in her spot so she can be seen or wear the right shoes is constructive. Bossing her around implies that the older student is giving the younger one arbitrary criticism when she is actually being constructive. I get that you and your kids may be new to this and not necessarily understand, but you're the asshole and this is definitely an overreaction. Which is Reddit's opinion on all 3 subs that OP tried to post this on.
She didn't get the answer she wanted, so she posted it on another sub, and they didn't agree with her either, so she posted it on another sub.
Right, OP initially posted it in a youth theater subreddit, didn't get the answer they liked and deleted that and moved over to Am I the Asshole? If this many people disagree with you, maybe take a step back and realize that you're probably the asshole.
Am I the asshole for ruining my daughter-in-law's birth plan?
I mean, assuming that your daughter-in-law is the one giving birth, then yes, the person giving birth should be in charge of the plan.
I need some opinions on this situation. My son and daughter-in-law are staying with me at the moment. Their house is being fixed due to a flooding issue that happened about a week ago. A fire hydrant broke and flooded the houses near it. Due to this, their home needs some of the floors replaced, and it's not safe for them to be there while contractors are dealing with the damage.
I gotta cut in and add, so many Am I the Asshole stories start with, so-and-so is living with us because of flooding issues in their house. Do people not know what backflow valves are?
No.
Get a backflow valve, everybody. You won't end up on Am I the Asshole stories.
Okay, but in this case, would that help with the fire hydrant?
Probably not. If it's flooding the street, I don't know. It depends on a lot of factors. It sounds like they needed a sump pump or something. Sorry, this is not relevant to the story at all.
No, it's not. Back to the daughter-in-law that is going to give birth. My daughter-in-law is supposed to give birth to her first kid at the beginning of next month, and their home will not be fixed in time. They've been staying with me and set up a little nursery in the guest bedroom. My home is not big. I downsized years ago, so I live in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom home. I learned this weekend that she was planning on having a water home birth and a midwife during it.
Oh, in your house?
I thought she was going to the hospital, but that apparently wasn't the plan. She plans to have the kid in basically a blown-up pool that goes in the house. The only 2 places it will fit are the living room or if I move my bed in the master bedroom.
She doesn't even need the pool. It sounds like there's plenty of water in her own house.
Okay, I did not see that take coming at all. But yeah.
Just a basement full.
I thought about it, and I'm not comfortable with that happening in my home. I told her this today, and she was pissed. We got into an argument, and she is mad that I ruined her birth plan. My son wants me to apologize and have it here. Again, I am against it. I don't want her giving birth in my living room. Am I the asshole?
I don't think you're the asshole. It's your house. If you don't want somebody pushing a baby out in your living room, then they need to find another spot for their plan. I'm trying to think of if we had a family member, a very close family member, staying at our house. I don't know if I would care, personally. I wouldn't be home. I'd be like, good luck with that.
Yeah, I don't know. Because, okay, I don't know if it's just my family, but there have been a lot of traumatic birth stories. And I'm just like, go to a hospital, goddammit. This is too risky. You're going to die. You're going to die in my home.
I guess OP's daughter-in-law's family has very easy births.
Yeah, because I would never do a home birth. Oh my gosh, that sounds like so scary.
And I need to be in the same building as the ER, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I need that. Many very experienced surgeons and, OBGYNs and everything. And because something's going to go wrong, I know it. So,
but I don't think OP is the asshole for not wanting all that happening in her small living room. Like, is daughter-in-law expecting OP to at all participate in this? Or is she expecting OP to leave the house? Because it sounds like the house is not big enough for there to be a third option.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Because, OP might want to leave the house. But if it is her house, maybe she doesn't want to leave. And a lot of daughter-in-laws don't want their mother-in-law there for the birth experience. That's a vulnerable time.
Yeah, but this daughter-in-law does seem to be willing to have the baby in OP's living room, so maybe she doesn't have that problem.
I was like, which one is worse? Her asking you to leave your home while she gives birth, or her asking you to participate in her water home birth? I don't know which one is worse.
I don't want either of those, honestly.
So yeah, I don't blame OP. No, not in my house, thank you very much. And it's not like, I do get that this is very upsetting for the daughter-in-law because this was her plan. And if she can't do it in your house, where can she do a home birth in a water tub thing? You can't get a hotel room for this or anything. And then it's not a home birth, it's a hotel birth. What the heck?
That's, I think my logic too is like, I guess I'm such a pushover for just keep the pregnant woman happy. She needs to be healthy and the baby needs to be healthy. So I might just be like, okay, put a tarp down. But I don't think I would ever be like excited by the prospect of somebody giving birth in my living room.
If I had to witness someone giving birth in my living room, I would never look at my living room the same.
I think me having to witness it would be the deal breaker. So hopefully they don't expect OP to like join in.
Top comment, NTA, absolutely not. Jesus, she should just go to a hospital. A lot of hospitals have birthing tubs too. She should look into it.
I never thought about that. I bet hospitals do have birthing tubs, don't they?
I don't know about hospitals, but I know there are like midwifing centers where you can go and have your baby not in a hospital, but in a building with a bunch of midwives. And I know like they have a bunch of different options for birthing plans.
And I imagine their midwife probably knows of any facilities in the area.
But yeah, I don't know if I don't think hospitals really recommend water births. So I'm not sure if they would have, that option for you.
Maybe. I don't know. Sometimes you just have the option there so that they don't do it somewhere stupider.
I don't know. Now I'm curious. Hey, anybody who works in a hospital birthing unit, do you do water births in the hospital? Do you have water birthing tubs? Because now I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know enough about the subject.
We need to ask Jen Hamilton.
That is everyone's default expert on the subject matter these days.
Another comment. As a former newborn ICU nurse, I can tell you birth plans often do not go as planned. It's one thing for a parent to take the responsibility for having a home birth in their own home or birthing center. It's something else completely to ask to do it in someone else's home. What happens to you if something goes wrong and the neonate passes in your home? How will you deal with those memories of your own home? Will any family ever want to visit your home? Also, is there any liability with your homeowner's insurance, since you would be giving your permission for it to happen? I honestly wish more parents would worry about the health of their child and not focus on the birth plan, which is ultimately for the mother. Thanks for reading my TED Talk.
I didn't even consider the liability aspect of it.
Yes, but that is a good point. I feel like there could be some legal ramifications.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. There's just so much that could go wrong with this that I can't, like I said, I can't blame OP for not wanting this to happen in her own living room.
But you do hear a lot of times about mothers have the perfect birth plan and it never goes according to plan.
Yeah, and to be fair, if everything went exactly according to plan, they would not feel the need to tell everyone about it.
That is true.
But there are enough horror stories about it that I would be cautious.
I was so ready with YTA, but this is NTA. Almost all instances of mother-in-laws interfering with the birth of their grandchild are wrong. Except this one. You're entitled to an opinion and a full veto power since this plan would happen in your house.
I also did not consider the aspect that this is indeed a mother-in-law screwing up another daughter-in-law's birth plan, isn't it?
You hear about that all the time, but usually it's the mother-in-law insisting they're there at the birth and the daughter-in-law's like, no, I don't want you there.
This is the exact opposite.
Okay, and this one comment is kind of interesting and maybe answers our question a little. NTA, midwives have a specific place for this. They aren't hospitals, but more like midwife centers. She can go there if she really wants to. And someone replied, hell, some hospitals now have the ability to let people have water births.
I mean, multiple people have commented that you can do it in a hospital, so two's a pattern.
And one final comment, NTA, and you aren't messing up her birth plan. Her home flood did.
Yeah, but that does kind of put OP on the same level as your house flooding, which is not a great comparison. But I still think OP is not the asshole. It's your living room. You don't want that happening in there, and that's your choice.
And that is overwhelmingly Reddit's opinion as well.
Will I be the asshole if I put a post in my yard that could damage my neighbor's truck?
Why is your neighbor's truck being in your yard where you are putting that post? Not the asphalt. It's on your property. You can put whatever you want on your property.
My husband, 29 male, and I, 28 female, have lived in our home for over 6 years now. Our house is over 100 years old, and we've slowly been making improvements when we can. When we got married, my father-in-law gifted us landscaping for our front yard. We planned out what we wanted, talked to a landscaper, and he wanted to pay for it as a wedding present. The landscaping was completed over 3 years ago, and we were very pleased and appreciative for such a great gift. The landscaping included a much-needed retaining wall where there was a low patch in our front yard that previously turned into a mud pit when it rained. Fast forward to last year, and our neighbor sold their house to a new owner. Almost immediately after she moved in, she made it clear that she was going to be unpleasant to live next to.
Oh no, bad neighbor.
In the first week or so living there, she came into our backyard and chopped the top off of one of our juniper bushes and threw it into our yard.
What the? Why?
The bushes were next to her garage, but clearly in our yard. It's an old neighborhood, and a lot of the garages were built long after the homes, so everything behind the houses is very close together. Her garage is very close to the property line, and maybe even a little bit on our property. We would have understood if she didn't like the bushes. They were looking scraggly, and landscaping for our backyard was next on our list for improvements. However, she gave no explanation, and she hadn't even introduced herself to us.
Wow, that's rude.
Like, I get that legally you can trim branches that are over the property line. You still usually give the neighbor a heads up and say, like, hey, is it cool if I trim those branches? They're kind of scraping up against my garage. What you don't do is you walk onto their property and chop the whole top off the bush.
And then throw the top into their yard. No,
Yeah.
Dispose of it yourself. You're the one who chopped it.
Yeah, it's not that hard to dispose of branches off of a juniper bush. It's not exactly a log. I knew she did it because I could see her from my dining room window.
You saw her do this? Oh my gosh. How did you not march out there and yell at her? I would have gone out and been like, hey, what you doing? Get off my property.
OP couldn't have cared that much about the bushes, could she?
No, she just was like, look at her chopping down my bush. Okay. It stayed in her house? What the heck?
We ended up clearing all 3 of the bushes out by her garage because they were unattractive, especially after having the top loft off of one. About a week later, she ran over our retaining wall with her lifted truck. It damaged the wall, but her truck is so tall it did no damage to her vehicle. Again, she never talked to us about it or apologized, but I had seen her do it because I'm home all day.
Again, how do you not run out there and confront her and be like, hey, you hit my wall. You gotta pay to fix this.
Why is she driving over your yard?
I don't know. Sounds like she's just an all-around terrible person with no respect for your property.
That summer, we had the same landscaping company do work on our backyard, so we asked them to add on a repair for the front yard retaining wall. The repair cost $100, and we paid it because we didn't want a confrontation with our neighbor. 1 week after the wall was repaired, she hit it again.
Okay, that just seems like maliciousness. You fixed it, now I'm going to hit it again. Ha, take that.
It's better this way. Still, we had no apology from her. We're outside a lot, so we thought eventually she would approach us about it, so we gave her time. She never did. One day I saw her walking her dog and came outside to discuss it. I just opened by saying that I wanted to talk about our retaining wall, and she responded back by saying that she didn't know how the wall was damaged.
That's like the little kid like with crumbs still on their faces like, I didn't eat it.
I don't know why those tread marks lead to my garage.
It's a mystery, but it wasn't me.
When I said I'd seen her run over it with her truck many times, she started making excuses. She said the wall is too close to her driveway and that it could have been a delivery driver or any random person who used her driveway. I stayed firm. Initially, I was just going to ask her to pay for the next repair, but I decided that since she didn't even apologize, I would ask her to reimburse us for the initial repair as well as the upcoming repair. She agreed, but said it wasn't a big deal and she couldn't make any promises she wouldn't just hit it again.
What? Driving is hard and that wall is in my way. I'm just gonna go over it, okay?
It saves so much time to just drive over OP's lawn. She would have to back all the way down her driveway. The wall was repaired again yesterday, and this is the part that my husband says I would be the asshole for. I put an ornamental iron post at the edge of our wall, but completely on our side of the property. That way it would be easier to see where the wall is, but if she hit the wall again, she would also hit the post and it would probably damage her truck. My husband told me to take the post down.
No, Do not listen to your husband. You leave that post up.
He said I was being vindictive and immature.
Yes, she has it coming, that neighbor. That neighbor. Shaking my fist at her.
I took it down immediately after I put it up, but I really want to prevent further damage to our property. I don't want her to hit the wall again, but if she did hit it and our wall wasn't the only thing being damaged, I think she'd be less likely to do it again. So, would I be the asshole if I put the post back?
No, put that post up. Make sure it's a big, sturdy post that you cement into place in the ground.
Just the kind that perfectly rips the undercarriage out from a lifted truck.
Oh, I was thinking it was much taller than that and was going to, like, dent the bumpers or something.
Either way, the neighbor is not going to be happy if she hits it.
Now, I was thinking you just put a giant boulder on the edge of your retaining wall.
That's what I was thinking too, because I think the ornamental boulder at the end of a driveway is a time-honored tradition and very hard to prove in court that you put it there to damage people's cars.
Yeah, no, it's just a decorative rock. A very large decorative rock.
Right.
Right where my neighbor happens to like to drive on my property.
I think that is what most people default to when, like, the mailman won't stop driving over your lawn and things. Yeah, you put a few decorative boulders in there and problem solved. But I don't know. You could also just say that the pole is a marker, maybe? Like, hey, I know that the wall gets hit a lot, so I put a bright yellow pole there. It's not very attractive, though.
It doesn't sound like it's a bright yellow pole. She said it was like a decorative wrought iron pole.
Oh, that's true. It is decorative. That is the key word that OP always needs to use.
Decorative. Maybe get something that you can, like, attach a bird feeder to it with, you know?
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. Just because I know that there is precedent for if you put the pole there with the express purpose of damaging any cars that run onto your property, you may be liable in court.
But giant boulders, giant decorative boulders, not liable.
Just anything with the word decorative in there. That is the key word.
But you're definitely not an asshole for trying to protect your own property. And I actually feel like you have been far too passive up to this point.
Top comment, put the post back up. Very straightforward.
Yes, put that post back up. Don't listen to your husband. He's a baby.
Somebody replied to top comment, get a bigger post.
The biggest post you can find. Decorative, though.
Yeah, these are my decorative spike strips. I just love the way they make my gardenias pop.
And your tires pop, too.
Somebody else says, put the post back up and put in a camera facing the wall. Tell her it's to catch the hit and run drivers that keep damaging your wall.
I mean, you said it wasn't you, so I put it up to see who it was. And turns out it was you.
Of course. OP trusts her neighbors. If the neighbor says she didn't hit it, OP believes them. The camera is to catch other people. Never mind the fact that the neighbor, eventually agreed to pay for the repairs.
Basically admitting that they did do it. But, like, what was their plan? I'm just going to keep hitting it and keep paying to have it repaired?
Backing up is hard. In one of those giant trucks, it actually is kind of hard.
It actually is, yeah. In a lifted truck, I've tried it in, like, a regular, large pickup truck. But in a lifted truck, I bet it's really hard.
Although, that neighbor should be used to driving her own car.
Yeah, and they have backup cameras these days, which I feel helps, like, a lot.
It does, because I think when we say backing up one of those giant trucks is hard, we're saying that as people who don't own a giant truck. If you own it, you got to get used to it at some point.
Yeah, and I think the last time I actually, like, drove a truck was when I was in college and I was, like, doing field work out in, like, the blueberry fields, and I was using an ancient old truck that didn't have a backup camera.
I was just thinking when we moved into this house, I had to drive the U-Haul.
Oh, yeah, that's hard, too.
And I managed not to run anything over. Another comment, not the asshole. Her truck will only be damaged if she damages it. Tell your husband to grow a pair, and his ass needs to go outside and put the post back up.
Yes.
Yeah, he needs to put the post back up.
Yeah, he made you take it down. Now he needs to put it back up and stop being a baby.
Somebody replied, husband is way too nice and does not understand that he's leaving his family open to harm from this neighbor. She will keep going until they draw the literal boundaries. Because it's not even like she's being an ass on her own property. She's being an ass on your property.
Yeah, this is just not something you can be passive about. Like, you need to get on top of this and find a way to make your neighbor stop running over your retaining wall. And it sounds like you came up with a pretty good solution.
And Reddit agrees with that. They're all saying, put the pole back up. She should not be driving over your yard, and there needs to be some kind of consequence. I would only add in, for the love of God, never say the word pole without the word decorative in front of it, and make it a little visible so she knows the consequences coming. Your goal doesn't sound like is to damage the truck. It sounds like your goal is to save your retaining wall.
Am I the asshole for throwing away my wife's memory jars?
I don't know what a memory jar is, but you probably shouldn't be throwing away your wife's things.
I have been married to my wife, 33 female, for 8 years. She collects empty glass jars. Pasta sauce, pickles, jam. She says they are for memories, but she never puts anything inside them. They just sit on her kitchen counters, windowsills, and shelves.
Sorry. They're just empty jars.
Yep, food jars.
Empty pickle jars.
Yep.
Okay.
We have about 40 empty jars collecting dust. Last week, our 5-year-old son tried to grab one to keep insects he caught, and it fell and broke. Glass went everywhere. Nothing serious, but it scared me. I told my wife we needed to throw most of the jars away, but she disagreed. She said that they could be useful for storage or something, and each jar has a memory. She doesn't even know which ones to let go and which ones to keep.
Sorry. Does wife know which memory is attached to which jar?
We get to that in a minute.
Because the idea of her saying we could put things in the jar, I thought the jar was full of memory.
About memories, like the pasta sauce from our first dinner in this house, or the pickle jar from when she was pregnant and craved pickles.
I mean, okay, those are actually kind of cute memories. But also, it does sound like she is saving trash.
I just couldn't come to an understanding on this, so yesterday, while she was at work, I threw all the jars into the bin. I kept 2 that actually had a clear memory she told me about. The rest are gone. She came home and noticed right away. She sat on the floor and actually cried. Then she went to her mom's house.
Yeah, of course she noticed right away. You threw out 40 jars. It's not a small thing that you threw out.
She couldn't even tell her mom what was wrong, but she called me to ask, and I told her about everything. Her mom didn't take any sides and thinks we could have found a way to come to an agreement in the middle. So, am I the asshole for throwing away her memory jars? Do I need to apologize and let her keep more in the future? Does this need therapy? Don't bite me.
I don't know. I think OP's kind of the asshole here. It sounds like, despite the fact that it sounds like she is saving trash, it's not a ton of trash. It doesn't sound like a hoarding issue here. It sounds like she has memories attached to these random jars, and OP just unilaterally decided to throw out her stuff. I know 40 jars sounds like a lot. I want to know how nicely they were displayed.
But also to just go right to throwing them out. Like, I get you, like, don't want them on the counters anymore because if they fall and break, you're afraid it's going to injure your son. But be like, hey, can we maybe put these away in a box somewhere? Can we put them in storage? Why was that not an option?
Yeah, I think unilaterally throwing out something that is important to your wife, even if you think it looks like garbage, is never a good thing. Also, I feel like 5 is old enough to be around glass jars. Like, I get that one broke and it scared you. And yeah, sharp glass shards is something that you don't necessarily want a 5-year-old cleaning up. But at 5 years old, I think I was competent enough to pick up a jar to store insects in. And, oh, yeah, okay, he screwed up and dropped this one. He probably won't screw up the next one.
Also, I feel like 5 is old enough that when the jar does break, you can be like, don't move. And they will listen and they won't hurt themselves. And then you can clean up the glass real quick without them like stepping on it or anything.
Yeah, so I don't think it's really a safety issue for your kid unless these jars are like precariously balanced on top of doors in your house. But just unilaterally throwing things out that your spouse owns is never good. And OP asked if this is something that needs therapy. OP might need therapy for why he thinks he can just throw out other people's stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like the wife has probably lost a lot of trust in him. Like, he doesn't care about the things that she cares about. What is important to her doesn't matter to him. And I think they both need therapy to work through that.
They need something. They need to come to an understanding of each other's feelings here. Because honestly, like, this is the pasta from, what was it, our first date?
Yeah.
And the pickle jar from when I was craving pickles while I was pregnant. Those are kind of cute. I feel like maybe if she's having trouble remembering what all the jars are from, she should maybe Sharpie on the bottom what they are.
It doesn't say anywhere that she's having trouble remembering. She just mentioned 2 of them and didn't mention the rest. And he's like, well, those ones aren't important.
Then that's not cool. Maybe she has a system and she actually can remember what all of these jars are for. 40? It sounds like a lot, but also it's not a ton. Like, if you have a collection of 40 things and it's kind of displayed nicely, that's just a nice collection.
I think the problem here is they're just sitting on the counters and the windowsills and everything. They're not displayed nicely. They need to come up with somewhere to either store these or a way to display them.
Right, because I feel like it's not uncommon to go to like a garage sale, and in every single person's garage, there is just a cardboard box full of glass jars that might be useful one day.
They're very useful. You can do lots of things with those glass jars.
You can put something in them.
Arts and crafts. They could be a vase. There's so much you could do with a jar.
So you can't just throw out the jar. Also, every single one is holding a memory, but it could also apparently hold other things by wife's logic.
Well, I mean, it would be super cute if, like, you took that pickle jar from your pregnancy and filled it, like, with other things and pictures from your pregnancy and stuff, you know?
Yeah, but she doesn't have that opportunity anymore because they all got tossed out. I mean, how many arts and craft things do we have sitting in our house where it's like, yeah, this is going to be great when I finally finish it or start it?
Don't look at me. I'm embarrassed. So many things that I haven't even touched in 10 years.
They are mostly yours.
So many things. I'm embarrassed.
How's that book binding going?
Good.
How many have you finished?
None. But I made progress on several of them.
Good job, Kristie.
Top comment, yeah, you're the asshole. You couldn't come to an agreement, so you just went ahead and got your way anyway. Couldn't you have just stored them away somewhere?
Yeah, I don't think we brought up the fact that he could have just put them in a cardboard box and shoved them in a closet. That seems like at least a conversation starter. She might be mad at you, but she wouldn't sit down on the floor and cry.
So people in the comments are questioning whether the wife is a hoarder. Like, does she just hoard everything, or is it only these glass jars? And OP never replies, so we never find out.
Because that is an important bit of information. If she's just got 40 jars in an otherwise normal house, it's just a quirk. And it's not a big deal.
So someone commented, people saying she's a hoarder because she collects jars. Better call people who collect anything a hoarder. Legos, Squishmallows, action figures, comics, anything. There's no indication she collects anything else in this post, like other trash or leaves garbage or hoards other random objects. Collecting something isn't hoarding. Just because the collection isn't made out of traditional objects doesn't make it hoarding.
I think that's my opinion too. It does seem like a bit of a stretch to go to hoarding. As far as we know, she just has 40 jars, and I don't know, we might have 40 jars in our house. I feel like
I don't want to look up there at that shelf right there, which has a bunch of decorative vases and jars and things that I'm going to turn into my potions cabinet, and I'm going to make them into cool potions jars that I haven't done yet and haven't done for the past 10 years.
Yeah, it's just, I know a lot of our jars probably have stuff in them, but it just doesn't feel like a lot of jars. So, OP is definitely the asshole here. Don't just throw out your spouse's things. I feel like that should have been the end of the thought process right there. It's not my thing, so I won't throw it out.
You're the asshole for throwing things away without any other discussion. Just because she only told you what 2 of them were from doesn't mean she didn't know what the others were from. And someone replied, it wasn't even without discussion. It was with a discussion that didn't go OP's way, so he ignored it.
Yeah, that's never a great response to not getting your way.
You decided unilaterally that her hobby wasn't valid and that you were done with it. You horribly betrayed her trust by throwing away items that she cherishes. If it was unsafe to store on the counter, you should have worked together to find a solution, a compromise that let her keep the jars and increases the safety in the house. This is what partners do. Are you going to throw away every drinking glass the first time your kid drops one of those too? Maybe you're the one with issues. You're the asshole.
It does sound like it. You don't see me going and throwing out your scrapbooks, even though you haven't worked on those in the entire time that we've dated.
Okay, no. I have up until our third nephew was born, okay? So that was like a year and a half into our relationship, okay?
I am in the scrapbooks?
You are in the scrapbooks. Hey, to be honest, you are in the scrapbooks before we started dating because we were on the fencing team together, and I have a lot of fencing pictures.
Okay, Kristie. This is a fun post. I'm just going to keep calling out your unfinished projects.
Don't let everybody know about the graveyard of my unfinished hobbies, okay?
How's knitting going?
Okay, I've never tried knitting. Crocheting. I started crocheting. Okay, it is hard. It's so hard. Why is it hard?
You're supposed to get better at it.
No, I have to keep track of the number of stitches and things. I have to count, Josh. How am I supposed to do that? I can't pay attention that long. I have ADHD, okay?
I guess I don't need to call out every single one of your hobbies in this one story. OP is absolutely the asshole. Don't throw out your spouse's things. Teasing your spouse, very fun. Throwing out your spouse's things gets you in trouble, though. Am I the asshole for telling my boss to apologize to my wife?
Probably not. What did he do to your wife?
My boss called twice at 5:50 a.m. I was in the bathroom. After I didn't answer, he called my wife at 5:55 a.m. and woke her up to get me.
It better be the biggest emergency that ever emergencied.
She later told me that she was super freaked out, thinking something happened to me. She had no idea in the moment if I was home or not.
Yeah, someone wakes you up out of a dead sleep and it's your husband's boss. You think, oh my gosh, he's at work. Some horrible accident has happened and he's dead.
Yeah, boss is calling husband's emergency contact.
It's an emergency.
It was over a customer machine that was not working that I was programming the day prior. I rushed in and it was indeed working, albeit they suffered some downtime on third shift. I called him out in an email and said this was unacceptable behavior and demanded an apology to my wife. Am I absolutely crazy? To me, it's common sense to wait until 7 or 8 a.m. unless it's literally a matter of life and death.
Okay, yeah, I have no idea what this machine does, but this doesn't sound like an emergency.
I mean, for the client, it's probably an emergency, but not like a life and death, call the emergency contact emergency after you can't get in contact with OP for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that is way too short a time. Especially, it sounds like he was already up and getting ready. So he was going to be in soon, right?
I assume, because it sounds like OP didn't even know there was a problem happening. So OP was just dawdling in the bathroom.
And I always feel like if they call you to come in, like it's still going to take you time to get ready and get in there. And he was already starting to get ready. He's not going to get in any faster if you let him know there's a problem.
That's not how boss logic works.
I need you in here now. Drop what you're doing. I don't care if you're in your pajamas. Get in here.
Yeah, although maybe the boss is calling to let OP know, hey, don't come into work. Go to the client's office and fix their machine.
Okay, leave me a voicemail and then a text message to make sure that I actually get it. Don't call my spouse. That's weird.
Yeah, call the spouse when OP is mysteriously late, maybe. But not when OP isn't even late. You just can't get in touch with them before working hours.
Yeah, I feel like this was a big overstep by the boss.
Top comment, not the asshole. I assume your boss has your wife's number as an emergency contact. Those exist to contact loved ones in the event there is an emergency involving you. This is highly inappropriate professional behavior.
I'm just trying to think, in the 15 years I've worked at work, I don't think they've ever called you. Because there's no reason to. There's no emergency that involved me. There were emergencies that involved me and, hey, we need you to get in here right now because the freezer's down. But
they called you. Yeah,
they called me. They never would have called you. If they couldn't reach me, they would have called someone else that worked in my department.
Yeah, because I can't help them.
You could help them track me down, but that's weird. They'll just call some other employee.
Somebody replied to top comment, exactly, I had my husband's boss call me once only because he was an hour late for a meeting they forgot to tell him about. And they were worried he got into a wreck when he wasn't answering his phone. He was playing basketball. That was justified use of my number. But OP's boss would have been hearing from me directly about that apology at approximately 4 a.m. the next day.
Ooh, that is a good revenge. Wife call the boss and be like, you owe me an apology while he's trying to sleep.
Add a little bit of pettiness to your request for an apology. That is the Reddit way.
Although, do you want your husband to lose his job? So I feel like this is a slippery slope.
And then someone else was inspired to share their own bad manager story. My old manager called me in for overtime because something was going wrong and I was the only person who worked there long enough to know what to do. He didn't know what to do either. So I set off, 30-minute drive, but I got stuck at a train on the highway. When I didn't get there 30 minutes later, he called my husband. I didn't have hands-free in my car and my phone was in my purse in the back seat, so I had no idea anyone was calling me. I got there 10 minutes later, and when I grabbed my purse, I saw I had 20 missed calls, one from my husband.
20? Whoa. You weren't that late. He's calling every 30 seconds?
It sounds like it, right? Oh, well, every 30 seconds up until that last 30 seconds when your husband called. He had to take one set of that 30 seconds to call and panic at husband. My boss started chewing me out for being late. I just got back in my car and drove home after texting my husband that I was okay. When I got home, I sent an email to my boss's boss and CC'd HR and blocked my boss's number and went back to my day off.
Did she at least fix the problem while she...
No. Just the boss yelled at her, she turned around and left.
I mean, I might be tempted to do the same, but I mean, I also feel like I wouldn't, but I think that's because I have an amazing boss and I feel super loyal to them because they're very amazing. But if they were yelling at me, yeah, I might just be like, oh, I'm out. Peace out.
Yelling at me for being late when I literally just got called in, then using my emergency contact to harass my husband too. He got in so much trouble.
I feel like 10 minutes isn't even that late. I would just assume you were stuck in traffic.
Or you couldn't scramble out of bed fast enough because I'm calling you in on your day off.
Yeah, like I gotta take some time to put on work clothes and work shoes and get out the door.
And then OP did make a comment to add some extra clarity. It's a small company. He's one of 3 owners. I've been there over 10 years. We are friendly and been to each other's kids' graduation parties, etc. Work has called her for work-related stuff before. When I've been out of commission, hospital, but never at ridiculous times of the day, and I never cared. If it were any time after 8 a.m., I would not have a problem with it at all.
I think it's more important, does your wife have a problem with it? Because even if it's a super small company and your boss and your family and everybody's families are like kind of close, I feel like it is super weird to involve your spouse who does not work there in like the company workflow. Like we got to get in contact with you, so we're calling your wife. That is weird.
I mean, I get that some small companies have like a real casual vibe, and it does sound like I would assume that boss knows wife. So it's not crazy weird that he called. It's just at 5:55 a.m., 5 minutes after you failed to get in contact with OP, that is clearly stepping over a boundary.
Yeah, that is way too early to be calling anyone unless they are on call, which the wife was not.
All right, that's our last story for this episode of Josh and Kristie Stealing the Internet.
Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button and we'll see you next time.